Hey, check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up.
All right. It's week 10. It's here. There's only 4 weeks left till the playoffs. Season is going quick, and these last few weeks are pivotal for the playoff picture, but it is also pivotal in the race for the Sacco. That's right. This week we are going to preview the Sacco race with Cameron, currently sitting in last place. But before we do that, let's take a look at last week. Your commish is 6-2, coming off a terrible loss, but I am now 7-2. Thank you, Chad, for pulling out a win. I said it might be closer than Yahoo projected it. I might have gotten that one wrong. Boy, did I get a lot wrong this week. Chad had a fantastic week. He might have been the highest scoring team at 170, 180 points. I said I was confident Devontae Adams would just get fed, get a ton of targets. I mean, I was talking 15 plus. He managed 7. Well, the Raiders decided they were going to feed Josh Jacobs instead, getting 2 touchdowns, really kind of feeding that run game instead of relying on the rookie quarterback. I guess I should have seen that coming, but I didn't. So next up, I basically laughed at Hunter Henry. I told Chad you should go to the waiver wire. Just what are you doing? And he got 13 points. Then I told Max, hey Max, OBJ, dude's washed up. What are you doing? Well, he scored his first touchdown in 2 years, 3 years. So not too many victory laps this week. I did get some of the average calls right, but my biggest busts and booms didn't really pan out. I did get the game right. The only victory lap that I'll do is I have previewed several times saying that Stroud looks very good. I said last week, quote, he was a gem of the draft. I'm taking a victory lap there. He looks very good. Texans just continue to pass the ball a ton. What I didn't see coming was a 56-point game, 470 yards, the most ever by a rookie. I mean, just huge. There's only a handful of starts in the history of fantasy football with more points at quarterback. Didn't see that coming. But what a game. Good job, Stroud. Jags definitely have some competition, to say the least, in the division. So, moving on, Max is now one step closer to the Sacco after this loss, but let's move on to the preview and see how Cameron does this week in this race. Cameron is currently 1-8 and in the lead for the Sacco. He also has fewer points than Max. So Cameron really needs a win and to hope that Max doesn't score anything, and maybe he'll pass him, but he really needs to pull out a win and concentrate on what he can control. Meanwhile, tanked up Chad gets another preview back-to-back. I think this is the second time I've done this year. But Chad just beat up on the Vice Sacco and got above 500. He is now 5-4 with Devon Chan, I don't know. That dude coming back for the Dolphins here soon should be a boost to his team. But let's preview what he's got. Let's see if Cameron can meet his mother, Metcalf, this week. Quarterbacks. Chad has got Goff going against the Chargers. Stroud has Cincy. Cameron has Mac Jones versus Indy and Dobbs versus Nola. Well, this ain't off to a very good start for Cameron. He was hoping to have Fields back this week, but that just wasn't in the cards. So, Cam's great hope is Mac. I actually like Mac Jones better than most. I don't think he's a complete scrub. I think he could be good in the right situation. Indy, however, might be that situation. They've allowed the 6th most passing yards all season. They also pass one of the highest passing rates in the league, and they are the quickest team in the league. They run the most plays in the league. So they're very fast. If Mac can get 221, I think that's a solid day, but Cam's probably hoping for more. he might be able to get 2 TDs. The Pats are allowing over 30 points a game the last 6 weeks. Since they've been injured, they just have not been very good on defense. So maybe Indy can get some points and Mac can throw those 2 touchdowns. Maybe get lucky and get 3 if it ends up being a shootout, like an unpredictable, divisional, not divisional, but conference type of shootout. We'll see. I'm not going to predict that. I'll take him for an average, 15, 18-point type of week. Moving on to Dobbs, the dude is certainly a hero after basically landing the day of the game, thinking he's going to ride the bench for Minnesota and then pulling out a win. That was crazy. I am certainly cheering for Josh Dobbs. However, he gets NOLA this week. His only hope is 50 yards rushing. That would make him relevant. I cannot imagine that he has a good passing week, but maybe. I'm just not going to bet on it. And he has had, 50-plus yards rushing several times, so he could be okay. But this is not a position of strength for Cameron. On the other side, Chad gets Goff. Goff is back. He is in the highest over-under of the week at 48. However, he is not at home. Normally, I would say this is where we can end the analysis. However, they get the Chargers, and the Chargers are terrible. They allow the 3rd most passing yards in the league. They can score. Detroit's defense has obviously been solid, but they're still suspect on the passing game. So if Herbert can not choke it away, he should put up some points and some yards. So I think this is going to be a shootout. The over-under kind of supports that. So I think Goff gets out of his slump. He had back-to-back 10-point games before the bye week, just not very good at all. But I think he's got at least 250 yards in him. My only concern is that David Montgomery is back, and he's going to take those short TDs away. So I'll give Goff 2. I think he should grab that. Kind of moving on, I'm going to look at every single week from here on out. Stroud's over-under is 25 fantasy points. He gets it regularly. He's had it under it only a handful of times, and he is just looking up. Bad defense, good passing game equals fantasy gold. That is what we're looking at here. So I like Stroud for the rest of the year. I don't really care who his opponent is. But this week, he takes on Cincinnati. I don't care about the defense. What I care about is Burrow looks like Burrow again. And in a 47-point spread, the second highest of the week, Stroud should get some points here. I'm taking the over. I think this is a very high-scoring game, so I think Stroud has a good week. Chad takes this position in a landslide. If Cameron wins this week, it'll be because this group does not come out as predicted or is much closer than predicted, and Cameron has a much better week than I think he will at quarterback. So, Chad, this is a huge advantage for his team. Moving on to running backs. Chad gets Pollard, underachieving Pollard versus the Giants, and then James Cook versus Denver. Cameron has Jerome Ford against Baltimore, and Najee versus Green Bay. So I'm not sure how Pollard is predicted for 15 points on Yahoo. Fun fact, he has not scored a single touchdown since week 1. It's just obviously terrible. He's just not been what we predicted. He's just not. Like I said last week, he now is getting in the rock. Looks like he needed Zeke, and he was better with fewer handoffs. He was more explosive. I don't think he's had a single carry over 25 yards this year. It's just not very good. However, the last time he scored week 1, guess who they played? The Giants. And they get the Giants this week. The Giants are terrible on defense. They allow the 4th most rushing yards on the season. So this screams like a get-right game for Pollard. I'm a little worried that Pollard gets no work in the passing game because the Cowboys are favored by a whopping 17 points. They're predicting the Cowboys to absolutely roll the Giants with Danny DeVito starting at quarterback. So Pollard should get a TD and kind of make up for a lack of a passing game. And while they're favored by a lot, they're still only favored to score or implied to score about 25 points. So they're really, really looking down on the Giants this week. However, We'll see what he does. I don't know. I just think he's okay. I'm worried about his ceiling because he just hasn't had one this season. Now, James Cook, I've shared my thoughts on multiple times, as I think this is Chad's third or fourth time that he's been in a preview. I think third. I've said the same thing every time. I've thought the same thing in the preseason. My thoughts haven't changed. He just is never going to get the goal line work, ever. And I don't know that he does a lot with his passing work. Yes, he's getting more catches than I thought he would, but he's doing absolutely nothing with them. So I just don't think he's going to get it done on a regular basis. However, he's playing Denver, the worst running defense in the league. So I can't imagine he's terrible, but again, both of these players just lack in upside. All right. Cameron's coming on. I would normally say Cameron's looking good. I like Ford a lot. He got 20 carries last week. He's clearly taken over. Hunt is not a factor. Yes, he's getting some, kind of breather roles, but Ford is the man. He had more catches last week. I mean, he's back. But, man, Cameron just keeps getting screwed this week in the matchup department. Meanwhile, Chad is just slathering himself in luck in terms of the matchups because Ford gets Baltimore, whose defense has allowed single-digit points 4 times this season. That means in almost half the games this season, they're not even allowing double digits. I mean, that's fantastic. That's phenomenal. I mean, we're looking at like 2,000 Baltimore-type stats. I think they're a sneaky pick to win the Super Bowl right now. So Baltimore is really bringing it, and while I really do like Ford and I love the Cleveland run game in general with Deshaun Watson back, I'm just not betting against Baltimore's defense. Najee is coming off his most impressive game of the season, so he should be holding off Warren for another week. This is an interesting kind of duo to watch. But unfortunately, Najee is in the 39-point over-under game. Again, Cameron just cannot catch a break. I see Deontay really kind of getting the passing game going because Green Bay's run defense is middle of the pack, but their pass defense is 6th worst. So I think they run through the air with short passes to Deontay this week, which is good for me because he is on my team. But I just, don't see a lot there with Najee this week. I was ready to kind of pick Cameron this week. I liked his names, but Chad's running backs may not be great, but, man, they get the edge this week with those good matchups. Moving on to the wide receivers. Chad, Garrett Wilson versus Vegas, Devontae versus the Jets. So they're playing each other. And Tank Dell versus the Giants. Cameron gets Godwin versus Tennessee. Mike Thomas versus Minnesota. And DK versus Washington. Cameron's group doesn't scare you. A lot of names there, but a lot of names that haven't performed. They all three have had very solid games. I mean, combined, they have not had a 3 or a 6 point game like Tank Dell has, who's been very boom or bust. So a very solid group for Cameron. I mean, they are all good for 10 to 15 points every single week, with a couple hitting 17. Problem is, 0 of them have hit 20 points in a single week. So there is no upside here. You would not think that looking at these names, but it's true. So the plus here is he is now on the right side of the matchups. Cameron has all 3 of his pass catchers going up against bottom 8 pass defenses. So that's really awesome for Cameron. I mean, this is the group. If Cameron wins, this group has an outlier week. They get their touchdowns in. They score their normal 10 to 12 points, but they also tack on a touchdown, and all of them are at 17, or maybe a couple get 20 and someone gets 12. I mean, this is where Cameron can really make up the difference, because Chad has Garrett Wilson versus Vegas and Devonta versus the Jets, so they're playing each other in the lowest over-under of the week. I mean, it's 37-point over-under. Devonta has been terrible for 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, just averaging 30 yards a game, I think, in the last 4 weeks. I mean, just not good at all. Garrett Wilson has been better, I guess, kind of moving on, as Zach Wilson hasn't been as bad, but he's not been great, and he definitely isn't blowing up. And Tank Dell has been boom and bust, like I said, with a couple 3 and 6 point games on the season. So I don't know. I think Chad has some star names here like Garrett and Devonta. But I'm going to take Cameron's group. Even on their low end, I think they score 35 points. And I don't know if Chad gets even 35 out of those 3 unless Tank has another big week. So, Cameron, I think this group is yours, and this is the group you watch closely this week. All right, last group, the tight end and the flex. Chad gets Cade Otton versus Tennessee, Drake London versus Zona, Cameron gets Kittle versus Jax, and Schultz versus Cincy. Hear me right now. Otton was a 1-week predictable wonder. The Texans are not only bad on defense, they are bad against tight ends. So, there is no way that Cade does anything similar against Tennessee. Tennessee is one of the best teams against tight ends. There is just no way that Cade does this again. I would hit the waiver wire. But hey, I told you that last week, and Hunter Henry got you some points, Chad. So don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Drake London against Zona. He's been coming on lately. I mean, Arthur Smith is an idiot. This is an anti-Arthur Smith podcast. But I just don't imagine that Arizona gets more than 30 points. I think they're probably looking at 17. I mean, I don't expect Kyler Murray to have some blow-up game in his first game back. So if they can't really put it up, the Falcons can definitely run the ball, despite the fact that they're not doing it with Bijan, killing me personally. But, they control the ground. And if they control the ground, I don't imagine Drake London gets a whole lot of looks. I think he's good for 10 points. Maybe he sneaks in a touchdown, he gets lucky, but I think 10 points is right where I would have him. Maybe 12. All right, moving on to Kittle. Kittle for Cameron has been solid. Has certainly had some blow-up weeks, just like he generally does. But he also disappears sometimes. And his blow-up weeks never seem to come when Debo and Ayuk are both healthy. And for all of our Niners fans out there, you'll be happy to hear that Debo and Ayuk are healthy and ready to play. So I imagine that Kittle stays into block a lot against the Jags. They really want to get C-Mac going versus the Jags. So I don't see Kittle having much of a week at all. I mean, he's had a couple 3-point weeks, and I think it might be that bad this week. So we're going to move on to his double tight end. He's got the stack. So Frank, sorry, you're not the only owner in the league running the double tight ends, although Jose drafted 3 and is not running with them. We do have Cameron bringing out the dub tight end set. So he has got Schultz. Schultz has been on a tear since week 4. He has scored in every week but one. Double-digit points every week, coming off a huge week, which, no, I don't expect him to have 20-plus points this week like he did last. But he gets Cincinnati, and Cincinnati should put up some points, like I mentioned earlier. So I imagine this game is going back and forth, and Cincinnati is the worst against tight ends. They have the most points against tight ends in the league. I mean, yes, please. Dr. Scholes is reporting for duty. He is my lock for a touchdown this week. So it's a close call because I don't particularly like Chad's group. Kittle sure could be good, but I'm not calling that. So this is a slight edge to Cameron. I do think that Schultz scores, so that's where I am going to go. All right, so Chad had big advantage at quarterback. He is great in his running back matchups. I have to go Chad here. I mean, I get it's kind of taking the chalk according to Yahoo, but I just think he's got the better matchups. I think that it could be closer than what Yahoo predicts, and Cameron could steal this week if his wide receivers come and actually perform like he drafted them to. They just haven't yet, but they could. It's in them. I mean, and you tell me DK has 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's not impossible. So Cameron's really got to hope his his wide receivers come through, and has really got to hope that Chad's quarterbacks don't blow up. So Cameron, it sounds like you are cheering for Cooper this week. You need him to beat Max to stay out of the race for the Sacco. All right, that's it. Man, can't believe it's almost over. Only 3 weeks after this. So, enjoy it. Enjoy the games. See you in the next one.